So if you've watched my eBay haul video recently, I recently won Green Lantern issue 48, 50, and 51. First appearance of Kyle Rayner, first appearance of Kyle Rayner as a Green Lantern, and first cover of Kyle Rayner. And I said I was going to read those issues. Well, I was itching pretty bad to read these issues, so I did. And I even though I'm a tactile person, I like to read these books as they were intended. Don't care about the value. They're comic books. They're meant to be read. I wanted to read them physically. They got put back in this box right here underneath the brown box. And you know how it goes. Didn't want to pull it out and untape the bag. And so I have a subscription to DC Universe, and I use that subscription, and I read 48, 49, 50, and 51, since I was going to have to read 49 digitally anyways. And let me tell you, I already know about the Jeff Johns Rebirth run. I know that carried over into New 52, and I know everything in Emerald Twilight has been retconned. I understand all of that. Didn't take away the impact of this story. I think that was a testament to Bill Willingham, Darryl Banks, Ron Mars, the colorists, the inkers, the entire creative team, letterers, editors. I really enjoyed Emerald Twilight. I think it was amazing. I listened to a podcast, a Green Lantern podcast called The Podcast of Oa by Myron Rumsey and Phil Bova. Excellent podcast. Now, Myron Rumsey is an older reader, and Emerald Twilight got him off the book. It took him out of comics for a long time, apparently. And he's come back to it. I believe he's read the issues since then, and he's still not a fan of it. So he's kind of my window into the older Green Lantern collector and kind of what they were thinking at the time of Emerald Twilight. And so I can definitely see, reading this story, why Hal Jordan fans would be offended. This story is totally uncharacteristic of Hal Jordan. It really is. However, for me, I was 3 years old. Let's say I was 1 year old at the time this entire run started. I was anywhere from 3 to 5 years old when Emerald Twilight came along. So I'm definitely not an older collector at the point of Emerald Twilight. And even though I consider Hal Jordan the Green Lantern, when I say Green Lantern, I think of Hal Jordan. I still think Kyle Rayner represents my generation of Green Lantern. He was the Green Lantern through the 90s when I was growing up in the 90s. And so there's a lot of impact there. There's a lot of nostalgia factor there when reading Emerald Twilight. And I got to say, 48 took me by the reins. I mean, I just, what a gut punch issue 48 was. When I opened it up to 48, I assume we're in the aftermath of some sort of event, be it in the Green Lantern book specifically, or the aftermath of an event. Hal Jordan is kneeling down on his knees in agony and inside the blast radius of Coast City. Coast City's been wiped off the map. Now, I would assume this is the aftermath of an event, and I need to track down this event. I need to do some homework so I can track down the story and figure out what leads up to issue 48. I'm really interested in that. What caused the decimation of Coast City. However, whatever caused that, that's what I'm introduced to. And Hal Jordan breaks the one rule you're not supposed to break when owning a Green Lantern ring. You're not supposed to use your Green Lantern ring for personal gain. What does Hal Jordan do? Well, first he creates this big green dome over the blast radius. For what purpose, I don't know. But that's the panel we're given. And then inside of that dome, we see a reanimated version of Hal Jordan's dad. Now keep in mind, this is not a ghost of Hal Jordan's dad. This is not Hal Jordan's dad being resurrected back to life. This is all a mental construct of Hal Jordan's mind. You know how that's a that seems to be a troll lately. That's just a social construct. That's fake. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a social construct invented by humanity. And you can just think the construct away and it doesn't exist. That seems to be a troll lately. Well, that can be applied to Hal Jordan's dad here. He's just a construct. However, it still like hits you. There's still plenty of impact there. Hal Jordan is trying to work through his feelings, his relationship with his dad, and this construct. That's how he's using this for personal gain. He's using the ring to help him work through some of the tragedy in his life, some of the skeletons in his closet, and this apparition, this construct, is belittling Hal. Tells him how he'll never amount up to his brothers. You know, Hal Jordan tells him, "I'm a hero now," and you can't even appreciate that. And his dad fires back, you know, "What hero? Your brothers are dead because of you." And you want to talk about like taking a Mike Tyson fist right to the gut, like, oh, like it hit me, like, oh, I felt for Hal Jordan there. I really did. He just wants a healthy relationship with his father so much. And even his own construct belittles him. Because that's all he remembers of his dad. That's pretty sad. And then we go down memory lane. He actually reconstructs Coast City. He reconstructs people. He visits with an ex-girlfriend or whatever. And then towards the end of the issue, the Guardians send a messenger to him. They learn of what he's done, and the messenger tells him he's to return to Oa to relinquish his ring. And he's definitely not about to relinquish his ring. You longtime readers of DC, you longtime collectors of Green Lantern, know where this is headed already. But I was just reading this for the first time. He's headed back to Oa, but he's headed to kick some butt. He's not going to relinquish his ring this time. He sucks the energy from that Guardian construct, and then he's on his way to Oa. And then at the very end, we see Kyle Rayner and his girlfriend and their skivvies, and they see a Green Lantern, or they see Hal Jordan streaking across the night sky, which is a really cool image. They just don't realize it's Hal Jordan. I'm not even sure Kyle Rayner knows what a Green Lantern is at that point. And then in 49 and 50, we see Hal Jordan on his way to the Guardians, going through essentially the 10 labors of Hercules, every so often on his path to the Guardians, to Oa. They realize he's not going to relinquish his ring. They realize Hal Jordan has gone crazy. They need to stop him. And they need to prevent Hal Jordan from doing something truly devastating to the DC universe. And so we see Hal Jordan go through a couple Green Lanterns, and then right before he gets to Oa, they send his best friend Kilowog to try and stop him. And Hal Jordan even turns his back on Kilowog, which is gut-wrenching. I think it would have had an even bigger impact had I been old enough to read that in real time and had been following along from issue 1. I think it would have had a greater impact on me. And then in the middle of 51, I can't believe they did this. This is so ahead of its time. If you're familiar with Sinestro and the Jeff Johns run of just 15 years ago, roughly, Sinestro comes. Now, keep in mind, this is still the same character from the Silver Age, the mustache twirling, big-brained, Widow's Peak, purple guy that you've seen in Super Friends. So this version of Sinestro, and it's like a Western. He's like walking up. I mean, I could see him walking in the art. The art was so live when I was reading this. It really helped when I was reading it digitally. Is it the panel view? Is it called panel view? That was really helping it and helping it feel alive. And he's got this cool. He's a Green Lantern wearing a Green Lantern ring. He's got this cool like ninja robe on. It's really a sick concept. I really like the way Sinestro looked. And they square off, and they fight. It felt like a big Dragon Ball Z fight or something. You really feel like Sinestro is pretty potent and can hold his own, but you still get the idea that Hal Jordan is still just that much better, which was perfect. That's the way I would have wrote it. I wouldn't have changed nothing about issue 50. And Hal Jordan does the unthinkable. Now, you know it's heading this way. As soon as you saw Sinestro appear on the scene, you knew this was coming because you have seen it 2 or 3 times already. Hal Jordan eventually subdues Sinestro, and I think he gets him in a headlock or something. And Sinestro says, just go ahead and do it, or something to that effect. And then you get this whole panel. It just really drives the nail into the coffin, really finalizes the person Hal Jordan has become, because from 48 to 50, we see the evolution of Hal Jordan turning into Parallax, 30-year spoiler. And he snaps Sinestro's neck, and it felt like he snapped my neck. Like, it was just like, golly, that was one of the best issues I've ever read. 48 and 50. 49 is a bit of a filler, but I still liked 49. It was still really cool. It still flowed really well. I don't know if 50 would hit as hard if you didn't read 49. And Hal Jordan then gets all the power from the Green Lantern battery, which kills 99% of the Guardians. They, in a last-ditch effort to preserve their kind, they put all of their energy, all of their power into one Guardian to keep him alive. Once the battery is drained of its power, I guess the Guardians are connected to the battery somehow. I'm not sure. And then we see Hal Jordan streaking across the galaxy as Parallax, and he's now become the villain Parallax. And we see Kyle Rayner now as the new Green Lantern for the new generation, which would be my generation. I thought this was a great story arc. I cannot wait to meet Ron Mars in September, and not even about the autographs, but to thank him. Like, man, your story in Emerald Twilight was so good. It impacted me so much. I already know the payoff, and I'll tell you guys the payoff. Hal Jordan as Parallax, I believe it's in Final Night, sacrifices himself. He goes into the sun to I forget exactly what happens to plot. I've never read Final Night. I've just read an overarching review of it. Something happens between the Earth and the sun that creates eternal winter on Earth, and Hal Jordan as Parallax agrees to go into the sun and sacrifice himself to save Earth. And that is how Hal Jordan is. They call it a retcon, but to me, honestly, I just call it a payoff. His return to status quo, being good guy, the all daring, all brave Hal Jordan. But yeah, even knowing what happens in Final Night and these stories, these spoilers, it still impacted me. It still resonated with me. It was very emotional. That we're learning about the very tragic relationship between Hal Jordan and his father, seeing the evolution of Hal Jordan, and seeing the emergence of Kyle Rayner. It was a little bit of an emotional ride. All these good things are happening to Kyle Rayner, which tragedy will strike Kyle Rayner further down this run. And one of these issues will spark the career of Gail Simone. I haven't read it yet, but I hope to read it eventually. But however, as we're seeing Hal Jordan fade away, we're seeing the rise of Kyle Rayner. And I would just love to bring it around to the original thought. I would just love to meet Ron Mars like I hope to do in September. And just thank him. Even more than I care more about doing that than getting the autograph. Because that means a lot, that a 34-year-old story that has been retconned and spoiled and made irrelevant still left an impression on me. I would highly encourage you do not have to be a Green Lantern fan. I would highly encourage you to pick up Emerald Twilight. I know I just talked about it. I know I just spoiled the whole thing. However, it's still a great read. I said this before, but I'll say it again. I said issue 36 in the previous issue video when I was talking about my mail haul. But I was wrong. I'll make the correction here. Issue 38 was the first comic book I ever owned as a kid. It was the only comic book I ever owned as a kid. I didn't even get into comic books until I was roughly 22 years old. So there's a little bit of sentimental value there. I feel like the only connection I have to my childhood in comics is through issue 38. So I got a lot of sentiment towards this run, and Emerald Twilight being so good was really satisfying for me. I hope you enjoyed this little review. I would give it, I don't do grades anymore. I used to do a Lobo fan page where I would critique, like full-on critique each issue of Lobo. Every appearance, not just solo ongoing stuff. And I would rate them. If I was going to do a rating, if I cared that much, I'd give it a 5 out of a 5. Emerald Twilight was really good. I would rank them as 48 being the strongest issue, 50 being just under that, and then 49 being the weakest of the three, just being more filler, just to get us from 48 to 50. But it's still, every issue is just classic, instant classic in my opinion. And it's funny calling a 40-year-old book an instant classic, but for me, having just read it, it's an instant classic. Yeah, I think I'm winding down here. I'm running out of stuff to say, so why don't we retire on top, guys. If you enjoyed this video, thank you as always for liking, subscribing, and commenting. I hope you come back for more content in the future. Until next time, guys.